Hey guys, we're moving on to chapter 15. I'm sorry, we did chapter 15. We're moving on to chapter 16. So we're just talking about energy efficiency, and then we're going to be moving into renewables, which you're going to have a presentation on. So you should have a single sheet reading guide. You can either, again, fill it in on your computer or print it. We're going to split this into two lectures, part one, part two, just because of YouTube's uploading restrictions on me, I guess. So let's start with energy efficiency. So what I want you to put somewhere is that renewables, all the things we talked about, the best way to reduce unnecessary waste of energy is with energy efficiency. Okay? So we probably should define that. When you talk about energy efficiency, this is number one. You're looking at how much useful work we get from each unit of energy, from a joule or from a watt. Like, how much work do we actually get? Because not all that energy is transferred and usable. Okay? So when you talk about improving energy efficiency, which again, super important point, it will be a question on your next quiz. It's the best way to reduce unnecessary waste of energy. But when we improve it, it means that we're using less energy to do the same amount of work, whether that energy is in light or heat or transportation or whatever. Number two asks for advantages. There's 4 advantages. So advantages to reducing this energy waste, it's usually cheapest. So if you're saving energy, think about all those times your dad told you to shut the lights off when you leave the room, or turn the heat down a couple notches, or turn the air conditioning up a couple notches. It's the cheapest way to provide more energy. You're saving money when you're being more efficient with your energy use, okay? If we're saving energy, it also means we're burning less fossil fuels, so we're reducing pollution and we're reducing environmental degradation, right? Destruction of biodiversity. We're releasing less CO2, so we are slowing climate change. And then in terms of increasing economic and national security, the less fossil fuels we're burning. Remember, there was that map on your quiz talking about petroleum and Saudi Arabia. If we're less dependent on energy in general because we're using it more wisely, that means that we're less dependent on foreign sources. Okay, so that should have been number 2 for you. So when you talk about things that are energy inefficient, there's 4 that you should kind of know. And like, that's kind of a cool picture. So aside from the fact that it's always better to be together, for this lecture in general, what's kind of cool is that Mr. Farley usually takes us on a tour and shows us one of these places. But we're not at school right now. So this is number 3. So you've got some inefficient technologies, okay? So number 1 is a data center. So anytime that you have a network or Wi-Fi in a big widespread building, you have a room that looks like this. This is like where the cloud is housed. And if you've ever come up to talk to me at my desk at school, the back of the computer gives off a lot of heat, a lot of waste heat. Okay, so think about all those computer type things now in this giant room. So these rooms are filled with racks of electronic servers that process information going onto and off of the internet, right? 90% of energy used is lost as heat. If we would walk in this room is like sort of across from the nurse in that main hallway, like across and to the left if you're facing that opposite wall. But if you would walk in, like, it's hot. It's hot no matter what time of year it is, and they have to air condition it differently in there because it's hot. It runs 24 hours a day. Like, you can access your Gmail account and your Google stuff 24 hours a day. It doesn't stop running. It doesn't shut down when the building shuts down for the day, okay? Another one is your car. So your motor vehicle is that internal combustion engine. So that wastes 80% of high quality energy as it changes that fuel into mechanical energy with combustion. And then 2 of them we talked about last unit, that nuclear power plant and that coal power plant. Nuclear power plants are only 25% efficient. Think about that thermal or that heat pollution that you learned about. 25% efficient. If you include that really expensive nuclear fuel cycle, it's more like 18%. And then the coal-fired plants are 35% energy efficient. Remember, though, coal is a terrible fossil fuel to burn when you're talking about particulates and CO2 emissions. But then again, if you're taking in mining and transport, it's only 20% efficient. Okay, so that should have answered number 3 for you. Number 3. So moving on to number 4. Number 4 asks about cogeneration. You should know that co means together, okay? So cogeneration refers to combined heat and power. And it's looking at the same fuel source and two types of energy and kind of eliminating waste and using it for something useful. So the example I want you to know is in a system, you can use steam for generating electricity. Okay, that's steam that's released to spin the turbine. You can capture that again and use it to heat the power plant or any sort of other nearby building rather than just releasing it into the atmosphere. And so again, it's two forms from the same fuel source. So rather than releasing as waste heat, you can reuse it again. Denmark does really well at this. The US is 8% of its energy is fueled like this. Denmark is much higher. But it's a way to take kind of the non-renewable resources and use the energy more efficiently. So that should have answered number 4. Number 5 then asks, how can we improve energy efficiency in industry and in utilities? Okay, so one thing you can do is replace full speed motors with variable speed. So a lot of times when you're looking at a factory, you're looking at some sort of, construction. You've got these electric motors that are either on or off. Okay, on or off. And it's like having the gas floored, but then using the brake. Like, it's silly. If you can replace them with variable speed motors that have a variety or variation of ons and off instead of just one or the other, we can save energy with like that low speed versus that high speed. Recycling fits into that category as well, right? If we are producing steel from recycled scrap iron, we're using 75% less high quality energy than using virgin iron and 40% less carbon dioxide. So that's really helping us out a lot. And then another one that, like, I know a lot of you have done at home as well is switching from the low efficiency, those like regular incandescent light bulbs, which I think ours are.
No, those are LED.
Oh, those are LED. Do you want to see? Those are LED. To higher efficiency fluorescent and LED. So I just showed you our little chandelier. That's LED lighting. Okay, so that should all be for number 5. So how about saving energy in terms of transportation? So this is going to be our last one for the day. We'll just put them all up there. All right, so there's hidden prices in gasoline. We talked about in chapter 22, 23, full cost pricing versus market price. We don't do full cost pricing. Now, it's really interesting right now because gas is like $1.40, which is crazy in terms of how low it's been. But if you take into account the refining of the petroleum, getting it out of the ground, processing it, transporting it, gas should be around $12 a gallon. That's ridiculous. So why is it lower? Oh boy. Because of subsidies. So car manufacturers and oil companies lobby to keep gas artificially low, and it gets subsidized. Oh my goodness. We're losing all professionalism in this lecture. They give tax breaks to big oil, to car manufacturers, and to road builders. So that's good for us as a consumer, but it artificially then makes us think that it's not so bad, right? So in terms of like green taxes, gasoline is something that could be taxed differently, and I think we'd use less. We can also build or expand mass transit. We briefly talked about that. Japan, Europe, and China are really good at that. And we can encourage biking. That was back in chapter 22 as well. We went through it a little more quickly than usual, but building bike lanes along highways and on city streets. And for those of you seniors that are looking at colleges or juniors that are thinking about college, the University of New England, which is in Maine, offers a free brand new bike to students if they leave their car at home and they don't get a parking spot. So like that's an incentive that they're kind of looking at, which makes sense. So that should have answered number 6. Now Dan and Chloe have to come say goodbye because they were already in the video and the video's over. So we're going to do the backside tomorrow. I think that's it. Bye.